This podcast is part of E2C Network, where we share the whole Auburn experience. David Housel said it best, the whole of the Auburn experience. It includes a wide variety of things across sports, academics, people and places, yes, in Auburn, but all around the world. If you want to just put it down to the most finest things, it's all about sports, it's all about our culture, and it's all about our family. And because this is about the Auburn family, we need to always have one of the Auburn family members here on the show with me, my co-host for every single episode of the Auburn Experience, Mr. Austin Scott. Austin, welcome, and hang in there, buddy, because I know you are feeling it tonight.
War Eagle Kyle, yeah, feeling under the weather the last few days, but glad that we can still get this done and be on episode 15 of all things. And, it's as sick of as I've been, it's been a pretty calm week in the Auburn experience world, right? Like nothing big has been going on, not on the
Nothing.
volleyball court, not on outside hires, nothing like that.
No social media controversies, nothing. I mean, it
No.
has just been the most quietest end to the football season and getting towards the fall sports season ending overall that you could ever have. I mean, gosh, actually, the only true thing that we're saying there is that soccer didn't have a great year and they've been done for a while, which is a shame. But wow, I mean, football and volleyball said, yeah, our season's ending, but boy, are we going to go out in fine fashion and have you guys talking about us. So that's what we're really going to start off with tonight. Yes, as we alluded to and hoped on episode 14 that we would be discussing was a coaching hire. And yet we continued that awkward prom dance as we discussed it with Lane and everybody else. Hugh Freeze is your head coach. We're going to talk about that, but hold your horses because we got to talk about something else that we don't get to talk about a lot. And we've done some here, and here is yet again me taking responsibility for Auburn Volleyball taking their first ever loss in the year. And I kind of vicariously feel like we caused them to lose this game as well because we've been giving them so much attention. Austin, Auburn Volleyball makes it to the second round. And I know most people are like, what is that big deal? Well, this is only the second time they've actually made the NCAA tournament. Upsetted, I always call it Crichton. Is Crichton or Creighton, Austin? Is it Creighton or Crichton?
It's Creighton. Yeah, Creighton.
I say Crichton because of Crikey or something like that. That's what every time I think about. But they upset number 4, Creighton. They're the host team of that particular regional, however it functions there, and nearly took down yet another team in an upset fashion in Houston. Had to go all the way to 5 sets. What an incredible run, Austin.
No, you're absolutely right. And I feel like a lot of the times the statement I'm about to say gets used toward a team in a negative way. But it really felt like Auburn was just happy to be there. Like you mentioned, the second time they've ever made the NCAA tournament in their history. Our friend Clint brought up, I thought, an incredible point. It's really the first time ever Auburn Volleyball has worn the NCAA patch on their jerseys because the last time they made it, that wasn't even a thing happening yet. Like that's
Leave it
how
to that man.
far, right? How far and few in between Auburn Volleyball has made it to the NCAA tournament. So they really were happy to be there. And then they go out in their first game in the host city on the home court. They take them down. And it was just incredible to see. And man, I really thought they were going to get it done against Houston, got up 2-1. And just couldn't pull it off. And Houston is also a nationally ranked incredible team, and they end up going to round of 16. But what a year for Auburn and for Coach Brent Crouch, and for such a young team. We've talked about it at length before about this volleyball team and how people need to jump on it now because they're young, and this kind of success is going to be what Coach Crouch expects from here on out. And so it's going to be really exciting. And what a fun year for Auburn Volleyball and for the Auburn family to kind of rally around a sport that people don't talk about quite as much.
Well, and, I was about to say rightfully so. That's not the correct way to say that. There is something too that you've got to give fans something to latch onto. And this is not a dig at previous coaches and previous players and anything like that, but there really hasn't been a lot of like long-term sustained success. As we talked about, this is the second time they've been to the NCAA tournament. But here's the thing I will say about whether it's collegiate athletics, whether it's about pro athletes, whether it's tiddlywinks out there, put something with successful Auburn people on top of it, and Auburn fans will show up in droves. I mean, we had what I thought was a great crowd travel out to, was it Omaha, Nebraska that they were playing out, Austin? I believe
Yes,
it was
that's right.
Omaha. Great crowd. The cheerleading, or at least some of them, team decided to surprise them by showing up to cheer for them. And it was so nice to hear them on the broadcast out there, having all that they do during, any kind of sporting event, those type of cheers and stuff.
Right.
Tiger walks, and they weren't small tiger walks at the hotels as they would walk to the court for each of their matches. I mean, it was so cool to see Auburn fans throughout the season, but also for this tournament, really embrace this, whether you could be there or not. Because that's all people were talking about last night. They said, you know what, forget these college football games. Auburn volleyball is on TV right now in the NCAA tournament.
Yeah, absolutely. And when people mention Auburn, and we can credit Coach Bruce Pearl for kind of bringing this on, mention Auburn as an everything school. It doesn't necessarily mean that Auburn is everything at everything they're the best or at everything they're winning championships. But at Auburn, unlike a lot of places, at every sport you're going to get support, and we saw that up front and close and personal with volleyball, and it's really exciting. But I wish I could say it surprised me, but it doesn't. That Auburn people, like you said, when something happens, they latch on to it and they fully support it with everything they've got. And so it was a reassuring moment, I think, in a week that was quite divided in a
Mm-hmm.
lot of areas for the Auburn family. That even something as small at Auburn comparatively is volleyball. That we all got behind it, and then we all were excited to see Auburn succeed on the national stage.
It is such a great thing to watch the Auburn family continue. Like you talked about, it's not a surprise anymore. It's more of that's what's supposed to happen. And so when you continue
Yeah,
to see it happen, it's just a reassurance of how awesome this family is. Do we have our weird divided moments? We displayed that this week. But wow, when we come together, we come together. And so proud of this team. It is, like you said, it's a young team. We're going to get to watch them grow up if they all choose to stay together here. We are probably, Austin, going to go from a time where, correct me if I'm wrong, it is free to get into volleyball games, most of them right now, if I'm not mistaken on that.
yeah. No, that's right. That's how I understand it.
We might be talking about a situation where you actually have to start paying to get in there. Now, that may be quite a bit of a step out. I get that it has to compete with, football and everything else that's going on. But there's a lot of times that they've had some really good scheduling on football weekends. We might be talking about some really packed houses for some volleyball matches next fall, and I cannot wait for it.
No, yeah. I mean, like you said, you and I have both talked about the scheduling, and sometimes that's not as inopportune that seems to happen with different sports and certain weekends at Auburn. But I mean, it wouldn't be something that would surprise me if we start seeing that interest in volleyball grow as much as it did gymnastics or as much as it did softball. For a short period when they were contending for national championships, and how that's kind of had sustaining power. And so it's exciting. It's really exciting, and just hats off to that coaching staff and those girls for representing Auburn and competing so well. And I hope they felt the love of the Auburn family this week and throughout the season.
Yeah, I'm sure they did. The way that people embraced them on social media, in person, those that were able to travel. It came across my desk for, people that wanted to travel from the media out there. And I was like, has this ever happened before to the, invitations to come out there? I'm like, can I pull this off? Like if it wasn't, in the middle of a bunch of crazy weeks here, I probably would have gone in a heartbeat out there, because how often in Auburn's history do you get a chance to go into the NCAA tournament and watch that? And volleyball's a real fun sport to, especially in person, to watch with all the spiking and
Yeah,
stuff like that. It's a basketball like type of situation. If I had to, this is probably a poor description, so please don't don't make fun of me too, man. It's almost like baseball meets basketball to me, where you have a lot of situational things being set up, and as soon as the ball is hit, so to speak, like, in baseball with a bat, but here with their hands, it's all bets are off. Things are just flying around and happening. It's a really exciting sport, and really excited to see Auburn's future in it. So congrats to Coach Crouch. Congrats to these ladies, the staff members, everybody that's involved. We are so proud of you guys. Can't wait to watch the rest of your future here in the next couple of years. Let's move on to our next big topic. It's the thing that most people are wanting us to discuss on this show. It's the thing that we've been teasing since episode 13, that we finally be able to talk about it. And yes, it's about a week old now. So I think most people are like listening to this episode, y'all acting like this is new news. No, we do a weekly show. So we got to, catch things when we catch them. And it would be just like Auburn Athletics to make the big announcement the day after we record, wouldn't it?
Oh yeah, and I mean, I think we even said on the show last week, by the time you listen to this, it's very well possible all of this is moot, or all of this has already happened, or all of this is now being finalized. And that's about exactly what happened last week, mid-morning, I guess. I can't really remember exactly what time, but they sent out it started breaking. The press release went out, I guess like 5 o'clock or something like that, Kyle.
Feels
Is that
about
right?
right. Yeah.
And so, not even 24 hours after we record, Auburn finalizes their deal to hire Hugh Freeze as their next head coach.
Yeah, it's something I think in the twist and turn nature of reports, and I have this source and stuff like that, that just kind of went all about every which way it could. Lane train all the way is what it sounded like, and that came to a screeching halt. It seemed after the Egg Bowl, and especially I would say that kind of started turning on the Iron Bowl weekend, or the actual day of the game, as the game progressed. And then by the next morning, we started having real firm discussions about, is Hugh Freeze the guy? Then all the stuff that was discussed this week on social media. So I got to ask, Austin, at the end of the day, are you shocked that Hugh Freeze is your head coach?
No, I'm not shocked. I really thought that from the beginning this wouldn't really get past Lane Kiffin and Hugh Freeze. It just kind of felt natural that those two were the options, strictly speaking, football at this moment. That those were the options that would get Auburn back competitive quickly, and that made sense from a cultural fit standpoint. Um, and that's kind of where we ended up. Lane
Yep.
Kiffin, as you said, didn't work out. The train fell off the rails, so to speak. And then Hugh Freeze ends up being the head coach. And from strictly football, and we have talked at length about the non-football things, but from strictly football, I don't think Auburn could have done much better or worse. I think that it just worked this out really well from an offensive schematic sense, and from the way college football is now in an NIL and transfer portal sense, that Hugh Freeze makes a lot of sense to get Auburn back on track quickly. I thought it was really interesting this past weekend that on College Game Day they had a segment where they kind of spun a random wheel of questions, and whoever was up next, it was their turn to answer the question. Well, Kirk Herbstreit spins the wheel, and his question is, what first year head coach for 2023 will have the Lincoln Riley year, as in bring in all the transfers and have immediate success? And he said Hugh Freeze at Auburn, no question. And so I think that kind of tells you that's what Auburn's trying to get right here on the field, on the football field, is bring in the talent, bring in the exciting offense, and get back to having success that Auburn people expect on the football field.
Yeah, it really checks a lot of boxes that the people had. Now, we had all kind of built up, as I've already said, the idea of Lane Kiffin being the head coach. And I guess I got to ask this question. Do you think that Lane Kiffin was the number one choice? Because if you listen to, A.D. Cohen, the number one choice always was Hugh Freeze, and they were just going through the vetting process and making sure that no other candidates interviewed better or showed up better once they went through that process. Do you think Hugh was the number one, or Lane was the number one?
I don't want to call AD John Cohen a liar, and so that's not going to call him a direct liar. But I do think that it is. I do think that every time I watch a brand new head coach press conference, is the guy they got was the number one. That's what
Yes,
seems to be the company line.
it is.
So my humble opinion, I'm going to say no. But I do think that if we had a similar 1A, 1B situation here,
Right.
But if we're putting bullet points ahead of each other, I do think Lane was ahead of Hugh.
Yeah, listen, that's us outside looking in. They know the process, we don't. So it's not us calling them liar. It's just kind of we're only operating off the information we have. Lane seemed to check most of the boxes. But here we are with Hugh Freeze. Freeze warnings, ironically, around the country start coming in about the time that he gets hired. And now actually it's kind of warm here in Marietta where I am, but um it's going to be interesting. This feels like a little bit of return to form in a sense of Gus Malzahn-esque, same type of coaching mentality, demeanor, values to, really for the most part. And it kind of feels like we went back to where some familiar territory already has arrived. So, Austin, your thoughts on good thing, bad thing? What's your thoughts on that?
I think it's a good thing. I think this is kind of the way, this is the kind of area that Auburn has kind of carved themselves out to be, is to have an exciting offense that resembles kind of things that go quickly. And when we've tried to divert from that in the past, it hasn't worked out well. And I don't just mean in
Mm-mm.
Brian Hartson instance. I mean, even we go back to 2012 and Gene Chizik trying to kind
Yes,
of
thank you.
shift to pro.
Oh,
It just hasn't worked out well, and that's just not the nature of the sport really anymore, right?
right.
And so I think that it's worked out better for Auburn to go back to that kind of forward thinking in terms of how the game is played. As far as values, I'm sure that word is going to cause a bunch of people to shift in their seat regarding Hugh Freeze specifically.
That's why I said it.
And fair enough. And I think you've seen throughout the week pointing questions to Coach Freeze and him answer those to the best of his ability. You might not like his answers, and that's totally fine. But I think he also recognized that, and I thought he put it at a great point when he said at the end of his press conference is that now he was speaking to about recruiting at Auburn wasn't special, but I think it points to himself as well and the questions about his character is you just going to have to wait and see. You're just going to have to come to Auburn and see how this thing gets moving, how Coach Freeze gets moving in a role in a position that is much more elevated again, and if he's deserved that, and I think that he understands the magnitude of the position he's now
Right.
in and the questions that people have against him, and I think we should all be hoping that he does understand that and he gets those things and he has had those things corrected in his own life and that we all benefit from that because if Coach Freeze and his family benefit from a changed lifestyle, Auburn is going to benefit from a changed lifestyle, and we all want Auburn to succeed.
No, I completely agree. And this kind of analogy came to my mind this week. And I think we discussed it on our Wednesday night live stream. And when I say this, because this is going to get people stirred up now to jump back onto the Brian Harson hating, and that's not what I'm trying to do here, but because when he made that video, or the AU Productions, who continues to make me cry all the time, stop it. What are you doing? But they made their intro video, the saying that we all kind of had fun with, especially after he was fired, is just watch. Well, when you
Yep.
hear Hugh Freeze, his catch line, not in an intro video, but so far, is come and see. And so I find it interesting that maybe I'm digging way too deep into something like that, but that's what I do. I mean, I'm a content creator, so I got to create content sometimes out of nothing. But to me, one was a command, a declaration. You have to do this. One is an invitation. And so I think that's what Hugh has done. He's invited you to come and see my team, come and see my program, come and see me and see if I live up to the things that I, say that I've changed in my life. And so to me, that's a very hat in hand type of way to approach this. And I value that a lot. Not to say that Harson meant it that way, but it's just those two sayings kept ringing back and forth in my head about how different this era I think is going to be. It's an invitation, which I think will draw more people in over time as opposed to just watch. It's more of a, for lack of a better term, arrogant
Sure. Yeah.
way to
I
approach
think
it.
that's a great I think that's a great way to put it. And I think it's going to be a slow kind of unification of the Auburn family. And let's be honest, not everyone is always going to, or not everyone is going to eventually jump on this train, and that's fine. I think and as much as I hate to say this, the way I'm going to say it is I think as success on the field happens, more people will be able to join on and jump on that and put those feelings aside. Now,
Yep.
those feelings about what has happened off the field with Coach Freeze, um, I don't disregard those, and I think there are
Absolutely not.
certain individuals who absolutely have a serious and righteous concern about it. And I'm not saying you shouldn't. I'm not saying that you need to just agree with it because he's a good coach. That's not at all what I'm saying. But I think that we are all have sort of a somewhat obligation to be able to see how a person reacts when they're put back into a position where they failed before. And that's where we're at. And so we'll see. We're all going to watch and see at the same time. And for me personally, I'm really hoping, of course, that on the field success comes for Auburn football, and then we can get back into the conversation like this weekend of the college football playoff and being in conference championships. But I personally really am hoping to see success off the field and in the personal life of Coach Freeze, because I'm a sucker for a great story and a
Oh
happy ending,
man.
Kyle, and I think that to see that kind of um, what's the word I'm looking for, to see that kind of rebuild and to
Yep.
see that a life change like that, that's something that we should all be very excited for, regardless. When someone so publicly ends up failing and embarrasses themselves and has hit rock bottom, that they're able to climb their way back up. And for me, that personally, that'd be an exciting thing to see, and for Auburn to benefit, then all the more.
It's something we all should be hoping for ourselves, for him, and in many
Yep.
ways, it's the Auburn story of finding a way to pick yourself back up to heights you never thought that you could reach in the beginning.
Yep.
All right, well, let's round out our show, Austin. We've talked a lot of sports, and as you and I talked about when we conceived this show, sometimes we talk a lot of sports here, and we're going to continue to talk about sports. Let's be honest, but I like to just mix it up every once in a while and just chat it up about something, tying it back to Auburn. And I get the feeling that we could talk about this particular topic. You have no clue where I'm going with this, by the way. This is like scary for you.
Zero. Zero.
I
Yeah.
think you're going to be fine with it, though. Um, I have the feeling that we're going to have a lot more things to discuss, especially sports coming up. So we will table maybe some discussions about like assistant coaches and things like that, and basketball. That's going to be kicking into high gear here too. Very, very, and it's already going, but the discussion part of it. Let's talk about Christmas time at Auburn, or just for the Auburn fan, and things that come to mind with that. Because obviously, you as an Auburn resident have the chance to partake in some of those you weren't able to because of obviously being sick right now and still trooping through here with us. But I also, think of some other things around Christmas time at Auburn. For those of you that are watching the live recording, so sorry for those of you on the podcast version on the audio only, there's, somewhat Christmas lights back here behind me. So every Christmas I put these out for you guys. I'm going to figure out a better way to put them up. Do you got any Christmas like Auburn lights specifically, Austin?
I don't. I guess I'm looking at yours. There's your Christmas Auburn lights, just orange and blue
Yeah, they
alternating
don't
lights.
show up as well. Nah, see, it's always mirrored on the camera here, so this is great audio content right here. But so it's a blue and an orange. It doesn't show up as well because of the lighting in here. In a perfect world, I have a different studio where the wall is pushed back a little bit. This is the stuff y'all wanted to know, right? Where those are more in shadows and you can see them light up a little bit more. But yes, they are actually licensed Auburn's. Well, they say Auburn specific. It's got a logo on the box, but there's nothing Auburn on them specifically that says Auburn outside of their colors. Maybe like it's the exact shade of blue and the exact shade of orange. I don't know. I'm looking at them now. To me, it looks a little bit Florida blue, but that's
Yeah.
neither here nor there at this point. So no Auburn Christmas lights for you, sir?
Not that I can think of Auburn Christmas specific. I'm trying to think about if we ever had an Auburn Santa Claus growing up or anything like that. The only thing that comes to mind is my senior year at Auburn. I came home for Christmas break, and my dad had gotten his Christmas tree. We had real trees growing up. My dad had gotten his Christmas tree and had set it up in his living room, and went to work, and he had not decorated it or anything like that. And I was home, and I thought, well, I could decorate it for him. And this was, I guess, a couple weeks fresh after beating Alabama in 2017. And so I said, I started to get the ornaments out. I put a few on the tree. I'm looking through the Auburn ornaments we had. I'm obviously prioritizing those first. And then I just decided, well, why not just drape some toilet paper over this thing and wrap it around the tree? And so I started at the bottom, wrapped it all the way around, went all the way up, and didn't finish the roll, but made the rest of the roll and just kind of put it on the very top, and that was it. And he seemed to like it. I think he might have thought it was a little bit lazy approach to decorating the tree, but it certainly had an Auburn flair, and we kept it up like that for the rest of that year. So I was pretty proud of it.
So let me make sure I'm hearing this correctly. You literally rolled your Christmas tree, Toomer's Corner style.
Yes, that's
Wow.
exactly right.
That's commitment right there, sir. Now, what happens when your tree gets poisoned by an Alabama fan and then suddenly it's dying? Like, do you have to string up little things across the living room like they did across Toomer's Corner for you to roll? Is that how that works?
You're talking about the wires
The
that we had to
wires that
roll
did
for a
not
couple of years.
work?
What a
Yes.
horrible, horrible idea. And look, I'm not hating on those individuals because they
They
were
did
in
what
a
they
really
could.
tough spot and had to do what they could. But oh my gosh, those wires were absolutely terrible.
Yes. That's what I'm imagining now. And here's what I also imagine is like little Harvey Updike. Well, again, I know this is not controversial to say, may he rest in peace. I don't wish ill will on anybody. Um, so that's going to get some people fired up that I had the audacity to say that. But I envision someone like him sneaking in a Santa outfit to put the presents under the tree. But then actually, as he like turns around, like in full view of a camera or something, it's got like an Alabama A on it. He's like putting poison in the water under the tree, or he's cutting the wire under your artificial tree. That's what I imagine.
Is he in a bright green furry suit too?
Yeah.
As the Grinch?
Yes, that's more like it. Not Santa at all. It's the Grinch. Literally, that's all it is. So forget, you're a mean one, Mr. Grinch. You're a mean one, Mr. Updike, is what it should be for Auburn fans. That
We'll get what's
Thank
I'm
you.
forgetting his name.
Yes,
The
Son of Crow.
you're
Son of
about to
Crow.
say yes. We'll get Son of Crow to make us a new song.
Drew Croson, I think, is what his name is.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, that'd be
That,
perfect.
so here's what we're gonna do right now. At Son of Crow 2, I think, is on Twitter. I need people who are watching live, especially, to tweet him and say, we have a request for you to make an Auburn specific Christmas song, to the tune of the Grinch, but about Harvey Updike and Alabama fans. You're a mean one, Mr. Updike, or something like that. That would work really well. That's a way that you can really tie all of that stuff together. I can't get that vision out of my head now. But I'm also ashamed, Austin, since we're just stuck on the top of lights and Christmas trees here, that I've never thought to roll my Christmas tree too. And now I'm highly tempted to go down there as soon as we're done here and do that myself and see what my wife thinks. It's a brilliant move.
It looked really good, I thought, and I was pretty impressed with it. Now, I will say that is not what Auburn University does to their Christmas tree that's on Sanford Lawn. That stays up year round, by the way.
Yeah.
I wouldn't. They do not roll their Christmas tree, but they do have a big lighting ceremony and things like that. And did you go to that in college, Kyle? When they would have
Austin, you can take my Auburn card. I never did that. I'm sorry.
No free hot chocolate and cookies?
I know. I'm sorry. And didn't they used to do Obby Claus in front of it? Isn't that how it used to go down?
They did. Obby Claus is a big deal now, though.
Yeah,
You
it
gotta
is.
register and pre-register and all the things. But we went a couple of times to the lighting to snag some free cookies and hot chocolate, but
Of
it
course.
was always hot chocolate at like 72 degrees outside too.
But see, look, as a starving college student, as I wasn't starving, but I was always
Exactly.
searching for the next free meal or snack. That would have been right up my alley. I can't tell you, Austin, how many things and events I went to with no intention of signing up or joining or anything like that, just because I knew they had free food. Like that was like my MO. So
As every
cookies,
college student should.
yes. Cookies would have been right up my alley. Especially if they were chocolate chip cookies. I know everybody likes these Christmas cookie things. You know what? My wife is really good at making those sugar cookies with like the really decorative icing. Like I bought her like a kit one time for Christmas. She should make some Aubie ones now or something like that. Christmas cookies with like Auburn things on it. You could even like do a Christmas tree one with the Austin TP toilet paper running up and down.
Yeah, there you go. I
I'm
think that's
also
what
Go ahead.
I think that's what if you can add a little Auburn flair to any Christmas tradition, then why not?
I'm also envisioning now because you said you put the toilet paper roll with the end of it on top of the tree. Is that what you did?
Yes, yeah, like on the stem at the top where people would normally put their stars.
Or angel or whatever. So where
Yes,
there's supposed
yes,
to be
yes,
something beautiful and bright, you put the end of a toilet paper roll. That's
yes. And I
that's
I might have written the final score of the Iron Bowl that year on it. I can't remember if
okay.
that's true or not.
That's fair. I will accept that now. But here's what I need you to do this year, next year, whatever. I need you to actually make like a paper towel, a toilet paper roll star. Like, take one and put little stars off the end of it as I do it off screen here live. you know?
Oh yeah, form it, origami it into a star.
And if you want to get really good with it, then you string some lights through it to have like one light come out of each end of that toilet paper roll star. And then you have become the ultimate Auburn Christmas tree person.
You and I are nowhere near creative enough to get this done.
Speak
But
for
we were
yourself,
creative
sir.
enough. But we'll see. We'll see. I'm not sure that now, that was in my college days and also my single days. And I'm not sure as a married person that has no really say over whether or not the toilet paper rolling of a tree is allowed or not anymore. I'm not sure that's going to fly.
Yeah.
And as we've mentioned, my wife's also pregnant, and I'm not going to cross her on a Christmas tree rolling right now. So I'll pass. When I
Yeah.
have some backup with the two boys next year, maybe I'll go then.
By the way, have you announced that it was two boys here? I know we announced that you're having, kids, but like, did we announce it was two boys here?
I don't know. I don't.
Well,
Maybe not. Now that you said that,
breaking
how about that,
news.
Mike? Breaking news mic drop. It's two boys.
Two boys, little Christmas gift
You're right.
news.
I don't think we did because we were talking about if they were to play a sport at the same time and if they were both one on men's basketball, one on women's basketball because we didn't know yet. So I think you're right.
Yep.
Yeah, two boys.
Well, that's how we're going to end the show there. Breaking news for Austin again that he's having two twin boys. So congrats to Austin on that. A little early Christmas knowledge that you guys can celebrate together. So that was a fun little topic. I had no clue where it was going to go, and I'm so glad that it did because I had no clue that someone rolled their own tree for Christmas. And now folks. I'm probably betting someone else has done that. But we'll put like a question out on social media and see if anybody else has rolled their own indoor tree for Christmas. So
Yeah,
all that
indoor
being
tree.
all that being said, we have discussed a lot. Volleyball, new head coach, more of that going to be discussed on future episodes and getting us started on the Christmas season here. Thank you guys so much for tuning in to episode 15 of the Auburn Experience podcast with myself and Austin. Austin, where can they find you if they want to talk some more rolling trees, Christmas trees in their own house?
Yeah, I'll try and find a picture of it so I can show people proper technique and maybe do a tutorial video. But Austin G. Scott is where you can ask for all those questions and send me your own rolled trees if it so inspires you.
Yep. I would also try to do that, but I also am trying to play it safe with my wife too, just because I don't want to make her mad at all. And if I've already done some things on the outside of my house with lights that make me rival Clark Griswold, I think I'm pushing it. So none of that for me right now. With that being said, thank y'all so much for being here. You can find me on Twitter at not at Tiger Eye, at Kyle Loomis 24 if you want to talk some more. We appreciate you hanging out with us for this episode. Until we talk to you again, War Eagle.
War Eagle, everybody.